Tonight, I can report to the American people and to the world that the United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden, the leader of Al-Qaeda, and a terrorist who's responsible for the murder of thousands of innocent men, women, and children.
10 years ago, on the 2nd of May 2011, Osama bin Laden was killed in his house by US forces in Pakistan's Abbottabad. But the hunt for America's most wanted was not easy. Let's go back to where it started. September 11, 2001. A bright day which turned into the darkest in the history of the United States. 19 militants associated with Al-Qaeda staged a series of plane hijacks and suicide bombings. The attack claimed thousands of lives and led to the collapse of the World Trade Center. 2,750 people killed in New York, 184 at the Pentagon, 40 in Pennsylvania. In October 2004, Osama bin Laden claimed responsibility for the 9/11 attacks. America wanted bin Laden dead or alive. A $25 million bounty was also issued for information leading to the killing or capture of bin Laden. But bin Laden managed to avoid capture and escaped. For 10 years, he remained in hiding and occasionally released videotaped messages. In the aftermath of the 9/11 attacks, the US led a coalition overthrowing the Taliban in Afghanistan. Meanwhile, US forces continued their search for bin Laden along the Afghanistan-Pakistan border. In August 2010, they traced bin Laden to a compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan, about 35 miles from Islamabad. For months, CIA agents watched the house while drones photographed it from the sky. The US pursuit for bin Laden was finally in its home stretch. From the 29th of April, the team trained for their operation with a life-size replica of the actual compound. The mission was named Operation Neptune Spear. On the 2nd of May 2011, US SEAL Team 6 burst into the compound. The operation lasted for just 40 minutes. 3:30 p.m., choppers land on the compound in Abbottabad. One helicopter crashes, but there are no injuries. 3:39 p.m., Osama bin Laden is located on the 3rd floor, shot in the head above the left eye. 3:53 p.m., President Obama receives preliminary word that bin Laden has been identified and killed. 3:55 p.m., SEAL team members move bin Laden's body to the 1st floor and place it in a body bag. 3:39 p.m. to 4:10 p.m., the team retrieves multiple items from the compound for intelligence gathering. 4:05 p.m., the first helicopter exits the compound. 4:08 p.m., the team destroys the chopper that crashed. 4:10 p.m., a backup helicopter picks up the remaining team members and leaves the area.
The death of bin Laden marks the most significant achievement to date in our nation's effort to defeat Al-Qaeda.
This is a day of victory, a victory for justice, for freedom, and for our common civilization.
Nun ist klar, dass dieser Kopf des Terrors keine weiteren Anschläge mehr in Auftrag geben kann. Und das ist einfach und schlicht eine gute Nachricht.
Bin Laden's body was taken out of Pakistan by US forces for examination and DNA identification. His body was brought aboard the USS Carl Vinson and buried at sea to prevent his grave from becoming a shrine.
This myth of an elusive bin Laden, someone who could never be captured, just invulnerable, has been busted, and that is very significant. But what's most significant for us, I think, is anytime you have an intelligence success like this, it shakes the tree. This is big enough, I think, that you could describe it as knocking down the tallest tree in the forest, and other things will fall.
The raid also yielded what is believed to be treasure for the US intelligence. The haul from bin Laden's house, 10 hard drives, 5 computers, 100 storage devices, discs and DVDs, thumb drives, bin Laden's personal journals. Experts believe that Al-Qaeda would someday avenge Osama's killing.
Le fait d'avoir tué Ben Laden à travers une opération militaire, c'était un ordre qui a été donné par le président américain. Donc pour les partisans de Ben Laden, ils vont crier au martyr et à la vengeance, et il est probable qu'ils vont essayer soit d'une manière organisée, soit avec des gens qui vont s'auto-radicaliser, ils vont essayer de menacer les intérêts américains.
In 1957, Osama bin Laden was born in Saudi Arabia to a wealthy Yemeni father. He was one of more than 50 children of Mohammed bin Laden, a self-made billionaire. His father made his fortune from the construction business and had close ties with the Saudi royal family. Osama studied business administration at the King Abdulaziz University in Jeddah, and it's likely that this is where he received instruction in religious studies. When the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan in 1979, bin Laden viewed it as an act of aggression against Islam. And so he collaborated with Azam, a militant leader, to recruit Arab volunteers to fight the Soviet occupation. Bin Laden's financial resources, along with his reputation for piety and bravery, enhanced his stature as a militant leader.
I think Osama's legacy has been extremely tragic as far as Pakistan and the Muslim world is concerned, because it has created such an upheaval. There has been a rise in radicalism, extremism. There have been several acts of terror. Muslims have killed Muslims.
In 1988, bin Laden created a computer database listing the names of volunteers for the Afghan war. This was the start of the formation of a new militant network that would rock the world. In 1990, the Saudi government denied his request for permission to use his network of fighters to defend Saudi Arabia against Iraq. Bin Laden was offended when Saudi Arabia instead sought help from the US during the Gulf War. Al-Qaeda's target became the US and its goal to prevent American domination in the Muslim world. In 1993, the World Trade Center was bombed for the first time. And though US authorities did not directly connect it with Osama bin Laden, Saudi Arabia revoked his citizenship the following year. His assets were frozen as well. In 1996, after expulsion from Sudan, bin Laden announced the holy war against the United States. Bin Laden wanted to establish a single Islamic state. On 7th August 1998, bin Laden ordered the bombings of US embassies in Kenya and Tanzania, killing over 200 people. On October 12, 2000, Al-Qaeda targeted the USS Cole, an American warship harbored in Yemen, killing 17 sailors. But it was the devastating 9/11 attack which triggered a global manhunt and forced bin Laden to go into hiding. In 2021, after 20 years of the 9/11 attack and 10 years of bin Laden's killing, US President Joe Biden has announced the withdrawal of US troops from Afghanistan, ending America's longest war. But will terror threats against America re-emerge? The possibility of a rejuvenated Taliban looms large. The concept of peacekeeping by force has left its own wounds. But 10 years after the death of Osama bin Laden, the world is unanimous on one thing. We cannot afford another 9/11.